What is up, Nickel City Mafia? Welcome to the post game rush hour. You know, Sean, I got to say, if I'm a Patriot fan, I might be a little disappointed that I won this game. I went from having the number one pick to I think they're going to fall to at least three or four. Um, but I don't know about what would you think if that was you, if you're a Patriot fan, you want that number one pick?
Yeah, probably just because you could have traded out and got a few more picks. Because
Oh yeah,
I mean, you got two good quarterbacks, as you saw. You don't really need a quarterback, and 2 and 3 and 4 probably wanted a quarterback, but now you're going to sit where you are, and you could trade up if you feel like it. But they just won't get extra assets now. They'll probably still get a player they want, but you have no extra ammunition to help you rebuild. So in that sense, I'd be disappointed, but after ending the year on a win is cool too, I guess. Trying to think back of when we were bad for a long time. You just want to see your team win. But at this point, yeah, 3-13, you have a chance. You had the one first overall pick in your possession, and then you win a meaningless game. And it's good for the locker room, I guess, and good for the fans. But at the end of the day, I think you'd want the extra ammunition.
well, I agree. I mean, they're still going to have a good pick. Let's be real. At number four, they can probably trade back, get some additional. But at number one, man, sky's the limit. So we'll see how that plays out. But I mean, Sean, Bills lose their final game of the regular season. Didn't have high expectations for this game. I was actually surprised that New England started sitting their starters like Drake May gets. I mean, he played what, one series and he's out. Stevenson, I don't even know if Stevenson saw the field.
I think he's hurt.
Um, was he? I don't know. He didn't show up hurt because what was frustrating. I played DraftKings and I was playing one of
Mm.
the showdown lineups. So I'm like, I'm gonna start mostly the starters on New England because they'll be playing. Forgot that I was thinking to myself, actually, that was a mistake. They wouldn't really be playing because who cares what they do? They actually want to get the top seed, but that didn't pan out. But let's talk about these Buffalo Bills. So it was like a preseason game for both teams. They were putting in second, third stringers throughout the game. And what'd you think of the Buffalo Bills? And what'd you see from some of the folks that got some meaningful snap count this game?
Yeah, it was nice. Got to see a lot of backups or people who don't usually start on the defense. You got a whole new offensive line. Receivers basically had to stay the same because we used all the call ups and weren't able to call up any receivers like Hamler or Virgil or anyone else like that to give the guys a break. But we only ran three receivers. We never ran empty backfield. So Shakir never got in the field. So we got to rest him up anyway, even though he was active. But yeah, I mean, offensive line looked really good. Obviously, it's not as good as the starting rotation, but good to see all the young guys getting it. Only thing I was upset about is, like Josh Allen, Torrance had a big streak going of never missing a snap in his career, and obviously now he missed the entire game, and that'll ruin his consecutive snap streak. And 35 games in a row without missing a snap, and that's incredibly hard to do on the line because you can get dinged up, you can get your ankle rolled over and miss one play, you can get poked in the eye, miss a play. He's never done any of that, so that was a little disappointing, but it was good to get him actual rest before the playoffs. And defensive line. I thought Von got his $1.5 million incentive. Javon Solomon looked really good, made a lot of tackles, got a lot of pressure on the quarterback. Carter looked good. The secondary looked all right. Wasn't the best, but at the end of the day, they're backups and getting their reps. And Andreessen and Ulofoshio playing. Finally, Ulofoshio got some reps. They looked pretty good too. I mean, Andreessen was all over the place. Ulofoshio was pretty good in coverage, like they advertised. So it was good to see. It was a little bit boring because the starters aren't in, but it was just nice to see these guys play a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it was cool. The Von Miller sack that you mentioned, $1.5 million. He needed one sack to get 1.5 mil. How cool is that? I mean, I wish we had that situation. But he comes in, and I'm glad he got it right away. He did. We didn't have to wait for that because I'm thinking to myself, I don't know. That's another tough situation. Like I know, I get it. You want to let your players go get those bonuses, but you also want them healthy for the playoffs, which starts next week. So you always run the risk. But yeah, that was cool. And how about Sam Martin getting $100,000 bonus for getting a kick inside the 20-yard line? And that was cool too, because both I think you and I were like, why don't they try a field goal? I mean, it's within Bass's a distance, but then we realized that he just needed that kick inside the 20. And what a play on
Yeah.
special teams. It almost didn't happen inside the 20. So cool stuff there. And then, like you said, James Cook ties OJ Simpson's rushing touchdown of 16. OJ did it in 14 games. There'll always be an asterisk there for anyone who either ties that or breaks it, unless you do it within 14 games. But still, it was cool to see James Cook get over 1,000. I don't know. They didn't mention. I'm sure he had some bonus going on as well, potentially. I don't know, but I'm not aware of that. So if anyone out in the chat is aware, if Cook was going for a bonus as well, let me know. Or was it just that he wanted the 1,000 yards and potentially tying OJ Simpson's or breaking it? I feel like you said, Sean, in the group chat, if they got close again, they probably would brought in Cook just to get that touchdown, right?
Yeah.
Very cool stuff. Yeah, and I agree with you. Some of the players, I knew Davis was going to get the most of the play today. I thought Ty Johnson would get a little bit more, but it was pretty much the Ray Davis and like you said, James Cook, who played a lot more than I thought he would, for sure. Receiving side, I mean, I was surprised that Coleman. I know Samuel was going to play. Mac Hollins played quite a bit. Quentin Morris got a lot of play time, but I was a little surprised that Kean Coleman was in there as long as he was, and maybe even Mac Hollins. What were your thoughts on that?
Oh yeah, we didn't have a choice. We only had 4 receivers active.
Good
So
point.
and they didn't put Shakir out there at all. So they had to run those 3 out there. Had to run a lot of double tight ends and have Gilliam out there, and Morris was out there a lot. So they really, I mean, unless they just went and ran the ball and had just 3 tight ends on there, but they probably won. Mac Hollins came out near the end, and Coleman did play a lot, but at the end of the day, it's fine. He's a rookie. He needs to get some more reps. And, they had some of their starting corner was out because he was hurt, Gonzalez, but, there's still some pretty decent secondary out there, and Kyle Duggar's out there. But at the end of the day, it was more of we didn't really have a choice because we didn't call up any backup receiver to help get some workload in. So they did what they could.
Yeah. So what'd you think of Joe Milton? So Joe Milton comes in, and I know during draft talk we had mentioned him on one of our shows. Like Joe Milton, how about just taking a stab at him? He went in the 6th round, very Josh Allen like as far as height and weight and speed. And he's got a gun for an arm as well. Thought he played pretty well, and our starting safeties were in the game there. And we even had our starting corner initially, but when he threw that one, when he was rolling to the right and threw that nice touchdown, it's against our starting safety. So good for him. I think that gives I think that gives the Patriots another option if Drake May isn't the guy, or maybe, I mean, based on what they saw now, might be a bad thing because check this out, Sean. Next year, Drake May's playing. He's starting, and he
Mm-hmm.
starts to have difficulty. Everyone's going to be screaming for Joe Milton. Put Milton in, right? That's just going to happen. But what you think of him? Thought he was pretty impressive.
Yeah, I think so. Again, everything is advertised. Good with running the football, cannon for an arm. He was pretty accurate, smart with the football, shifty. Again, very Josh Allen like, and again, he was just a 6th round pick. So having a 6th round pick like that, especially, I mean, he has got like 1st round talent. Got the size, got the speed. The arm strength is important. So he could be he could be a guy they even trade for, maybe for an asset because people saw how solid he was and a lot of potential. That was his first game starting ever. That was the first NFL rep he ever got, and first week with the ones in practice. So, they got a crappy offensive line. They don't have great weapons either. So being him and Drake May both being able to do what they did this year is very impressive. And unfortunately, if Drake May's starting, he'll be a backup for the majority of his time unless someone else trades for him because they see the potential in him. But yeah, that's a good backup to have. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, definitely. And then we lost because of Cam. They didn't even play Cam today. I didn't see him in there. So you got to rest one of your good players there, Trek. Mike, who's the better? Look, Phil Villapiano, had a great career. So obviously, I'm gonna say Phil. He played for the Raiders. He was part of the Immaculate Reception that happened. Very fast linebacker, very good linebacker. So right now, obviously Phil, but I was impressed with Ulofoshio for sure. He definitely, like you said, Sean earlier, good coverage. Everyone talked about his coverage skills. He looked quicker than I expected, so impressive for me.
Yeah, it wasn't bad.
Let's see here. So I wanted to ask you a question about Mr. James Cook, right? So James Cook is had another good year for us, back to back, really good years. We go into his final year of his contract. Do you, as a fan, do you think the Bills make a deal with him and extend him for a long term contract? And when do you do it?
I would. I know the way they usually think is they just draft a running back, they replace them after a couple of years, they draft another one, so it's a little cycle. We had Singletary and Zach Moss and Cook and so on and so forth. But as much as Singletary was great, he didn't have the great O line yet. By the time we got the great O line, he was gone. But Cook, I mean, improved his game every year. His contact balance is great. He runs with power as well as speed and finesse now. He's a little bit better at catching the ball out of the backfield. But he's just a great back. And I want to say that I think they're going to sign him just because his brother was tweeting about you know the bag's going to come soon or blah 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 blah, making it, and that his agent retweeted it or whatever, making it seem like they're in talks with the Bills and uh whatever. But I think if he's not asking for like 18 million a year, you got to try to get him back because he's a big part of our team. And Ray Davis can do good as well, but I mean, if James Cook keeps improving, he was really raw in college. He wasn't even a starter, and he was more of like just a receiving back in college. So he doesn't have all the tread on his tires, and even as you saw us, the last couple of years, he doesn't even have a ton of carries, and he still gets 1,000 yards and up in the top 5, top 6 with yardage for running backs. So yeah, I mean, I think it'd be good to sign him. Like Trek says, we got Gore Jr., but Ty Johnson, Davis, Cook, that's solid. And then if you got a guy like Gore as a backup, if someone gets hurt, he's coming up and he could do some damage too. But I just think he's a big part of the offense. Yeah, he's not the best running back in the league, but able to catch, score touchdowns, quick burst. People have to worry about him. So I would
Yeah.
like him back.
You know what? As impressive as he was this year, one something that I was very impressed with is he used to be known. I was always concerned when he ran the ball in years past about putting the ball on the ground. He had some fumble issues. This year, dude, he's been stellar, stellar, and his pass receiving skills been great. And then he just has that extra burst. So I agree with
Yeah,
you. As long as we're not talking breaking the bank, I would love to see him back. But that's a good question because running backs have kind of lost their. This was kind of a year a rebound for the running backs. Yeah, Saquon Barkley had go over 2,000 yards. My goodness. You have Derrick Henry, kind of over 1,700 yards. Just super impressive for some of the running backs, and I'm sure there's a few others out there.
yeah.
So
The
I'd
thing
love to
about
hear
running
what.
backs, real
Yeah,
quick, just in general, a lot of people, like you said, they're talking about a resurgence, and they always bring up, oh, the Titans got rid of Henry, now they're 3-14. The Giants got rid of Saquon, they're 3-14. Blah blah blah. Jacobs, the Raiders got rid of him, they're 4-13. But if you put those guys back on those teams, what they're going to be 5-12. It doesn't make sense to have an amazing running back like that on a trash team. You don't want to build around a running back. You want to bring the running back in once you're already built up. So Saquon going to the Eagles is perfect because they already have a legitimate team. Derrick Henry going into the Ravens is perfect because they already got a legitimate team. Josh Jacobs going to the Packers is great because they already got a legitimate team: offensive line, tight ends, receivers, quarterback. So a lot of people were making it seem like people just didn't care about running backs, but it's just all the really elite ones were on crappy teams that were going downhill. So, Derrick Henry about to be 30, the Titans stink. They don't have any weapons. Why would you want to keep him and pay him when you need to worry about rebuilding your future? It wasn't because they thought he wasn't worth it. It's just, what were they going to do? Win another game or two with him? So, having a good running back, like, we have a great O line, great quarterback, you know, every, somewhat decent receivers that are going to keep getting better. And tight ends were supposed to be really good. Kincaid had a down year, kind of with injuries and stuff. But we have a team where we can utilize the running back in multiple ways and use it to our advantage, where we're good everywhere else too. So I think we should bring it back.
Yeah, Truck Review, you're asking this question. What do you think, Sean? Do we bring back Gilliam next year or bring in a new fullback?
Yeah, I'd say bring him back. It's going to be cheap regardless, unless there's someone that completely awes you in the draft, or Pat Ricard is a free agent maybe. But I think Gilliam's good on special teams. He's good blocking when he's in the I formation. We don't use him a ton, but when we use him in the offense, he's usually pretty good. So I wouldn't mind bringing him back. It's not. I think we just signed him recently anyway. So I think we signed him last year. Jake, if he's still in the chat, he would know. But I'm pretty sure we extended him last year for a couple of years anyway. So
I'll check out his
he would he would
contract.
come back regardless. But even if he didn't sign yet, it'd be a cheap contract, so it wouldn't be a big deal for me.
He is a unrestricted free agent after this year.
We
So
never signed him to an extension. I could have sworn we
no,
did.
no, we did not. But like you said, Sean, he'll be on the cheap. And he knows our system. He's played many years for us, for at least 4 years for us. And he knows our system, great on special teams, does whatever is asked of him. And yeah, I'm all for bringing him back, of course. Let's see here. And then the Bills had Fred Jackson during the drought years. Yeah, Freddie was incredible. And not a lot of speed, but a lot of heart, and just made plays. Just ran forward, kind of like Motor was, but a little bigger version of Motor.
Yeah.
Right, always going forward, having some really big games for us. Love
All
Freddie.
right. That's the thing. You build around quarterback. You don't build around running back, because it's an important position, but quarterback's the main one. And I just confused why people thought like, oh, no one cares about running backs. They do. It's just these bad teams they're just getting smart. And as dumb as Shane seemed when he said, "Oh, I'm not going to pay a running back $12 million, have a $40 million quarterback handing the ball." Yeah, he said it in a ignorant way or a silly way, but at the end of the day, it was a lot of truth to it, because at the end of the day, they're trying to come from the ground up, where they were having losing seasons after losing seasons. They wanted to see if they had a quarterback, build the weapons around them, build the O line around them, and not have that, big contract waiting around your pockets, holding you down. And he went on to a better team and having great success. So, at the end of the day, it's just proof that running back is like the final piece to a legitimate contender.
Yeah. Let me give you some stats from the leaders today. Then we'll give some news on the NFL. There were some definite playoff spots up for the taking. Actually, a couple of those battles are going on right now, so we're not going to keep people too long. But let me give you some Bill stats. Mitch Trubisky was 15-21, 101 yards, one touchdown for a rating of 97.5. Thought he looked pretty solid. Mike White came in, was only 3 of 11. So looked a little rough, but again, he hasn't really played much with the squad. And of course, he's playing with the backup squad as well. Ray Davis was the rushing leader. He had 15 carries for 64 yards, 4.3. He looked good. He also had a receiving touchdown, which was nice to see. James Cook ran the ball 10 times for 28 yards, and he had a touchdown. Again, that touchdown tied him with O.J. Simpson. And let's see, Curtis Samuel was the leader. He had 8 targets, 7 receptions for 52 yards. Kean Coleman had 9 targets, and they were only able to complete 2 of them. So that was interesting there.
A lot of
Matt
them were bad
Collins,
throws near the
yeah,
end.
a lot of them were, but there were a couple that I thought, his size and his
Yeah, you got to
leaping
get.
ability should be able to get up there and get some of those. Matt Collins, 4 targets, 3 receptions, good stuff there. Let's see here. Let's go over to the tackles on the defensive side. It was Joe Andreessen leading the team with tackles with 10 tackles at a quarterback hit. Devon Solomon was second, 7 tackles, and he had tackle for loss, 1 quarterback hit. Almost had a sack, but again, it was very difficult to bring down Big Joe Milton. Joe Milton Tell you, man, he reminded me a little bit of Josh Allen back there, as people just couldn't tackle him. So
Exactly. Yeah.
Marcus Ingram, who so Russell Douglas actually started this game, which was interesting, and then they brought in Jamarcus Ingram pretty quickly. He had 6 tackles. Dwayne Carter looked pretty good, 6 tackles as well. Had a tackle for loss, so good play there. And the only sack went to Von Miller. Von got his sack, like I think it was the first series on defense, um, but it was quick and it was good. Get him out, get the sack, get your
Yeah.
1.5 million. Man, it's interesting to me. Are you surprised that the team's so open to letting players go after these bonuses? I mean, when it's more of a risk that they could get injured.
No, they do it a lot in football. Baseball, they keep them from getting their bonuses, so they don't have to pay them. So they sit them for the rest of the time, or they just don't play them or take them out early. But in football, they're really about helping the guys out, and I mean, if it's within reason, like Cook was 1 touchdown or a certain amount of yards, Vaughn was 1 sack. I mean, if he was in like the middle of the fourth quarter without it, they probably would have sat him, but got it quick, you get out. So it's nice because it shows that you care about the team, you care about your guys, and like you said, all Sam Martin had to do was punt it once inside the 20, you get 100K. You can do a lot with 100K, and I'm sure that made him really happy, and his wife's probably happy, and his family. And then Von Miller gets $1 million for getting a sack, and what a way to end your regular season. So I think it's good. I mean, like I said, if it was like, oh, he needs 3 sacks to get $10 million, and obviously that's a good incentive, but I would take him out. I wouldn't have played him, actually. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, check review. I'm with you on this one. I want the Bills to bring back Cooper, and I think Sean, you're on that train
oh
as
yeah,
well.
for sure.
Yeah. So let's give some news.
That's a must. Yeah.
Yeah, we give you some playoff information. So Tampa needed to lose, and Atlanta needed to win for Atlanta to get in. And for a while there, it looked like that was going to be the case. Tampa was trailing New Orleans early in the game, even late in the game, but they were able to come back and get the win 27-19. And it didn't really matter. Atlanta failed to get their win against Carolina. Watch out for Carolina next
So
year,
they
Sean.
lost.
Yeah, they ended up losing that game. How crazy was that? They lost
Yeah.
pretty big here. Let me give you the final here. It was 44-38 in overtime. Crazy. Crazy.
Yeah, Bryce Young really heated up at the end of the year. But yeah, I mean the Falcons, I get why they took Kirk out, but they should have did that weeks before they did if they were going to do it, because they did it with 3 games left. And if you did win and the Bucks lost somehow, you think the Michael Penix is going to beat the Lions or the Vikings? No, it's just it would have been better if you started him earlier, because you're kind of just admitting, yeah, we're done. I mean, not that Kirk was doing great at the end, but he started off really good. He threw 500 yards one game and beat the Bucks twice. Like they were in control of the division. He's a vet. Maybe he just had a little rough patch. You sit him for one game, maybe put him back in and see, but it didn't matter at the end of the day anyway, because the Bucks won. And pretty sure the Falcons lost to the Saints earlier when they were trash, and they lost to the Panthers now. So I mean, at the end of the day, they didn't deserve it.
Yeah. So let me give you the playoff picture as we know it right now. So in the NFC, big game tonight. This is going to be the best matchup of the final week of the NFL season, regular season. And that is the Lions going against the Vikings tonight for the number 1 seed. Winner takes all. Loser drops to, I believe they'll drop to number 5, or actually no, they'll drop to number 5. So right now the Lions are at the 1 seed, Eagles at 2, and they're locked in on that. Rams at 3, Buccaneers at 4, and I'm not sure if the Rams. I know everyone was surprised that they announced that they're resting their players. I think they could fall. I don't know if they dip below the Buccaneers, because if they were to lose, they'd be 10-7. Buccaneers would be 10-7. So I'm not sure who gets that advantage.
Yeah, I can't remember. And I know the Commanders, they played Daniels for a little bit and took him out. I don't know if they won or lost, but they could move up and down depending on if they won or lost, but they took their starter out. And then Jordan Love got hurt, and they could move up and down. So I don't know if they won. but both of those teams took their quarterbacks out anyway. And, you'll see about the 5 seed. It's either going to be the Vikings or the Lions. And then again, I don't know, either the Packers or the Commanders are going to switch for the 6 or the 7.
Yeah. So, the NFC is locked as far as what teams are going to be in the playoffs.
Yes.
Up for grabs is so it's Lions, Eagles, Rams at 3, Buccaneers, Vikings, Commanders, and Packers. Packers sit at number 7, and so interesting stuff here. Again, the number 1 seed up for the best team between the Lions and the Vikings up for grabs tonight. So I'm going to be watching that one. That's going to be a great one. That's why it should be a really good one. And then over in the AFC, Chiefs are at number 1. Bills had number 2 locked up. For those that have been sleeping or behind a rock or just haven't been keeping up, Bills had things wrapped up last week. So this is why they were able to rest their players today. Ravens coming at number 3, and they're locked there. Texans are locked at 4. And then you got the Chargers, Steelers, and the number 7 spot is still open. Now, the Bengals did their job yesterday. They won their game, which was a huge win against Pittsburgh. They are all they need. Well, I say all. It's kind of a big ask. They need the Broncos to lose to a backup team. KC is going to be playing all their backups, so this will be interesting. It's in Denver. If the Broncos win, they're in. It's as simple as that. The Broncos lose and the Dolphins win, the Dolphins are in. Now, the Dolphins are going against the Jets, which you could say that should be an easy one for the Jets. I don't know. Something tells me that if Rodgers is playing this final game, he's going to want to make a stance and say, I'm still here. I'm still here. I'm still relative. We'll see. We'll see how they if they have anything that they bring to this game. So if the Dolphins win, Broncos lose, Dolphins are in. So again, the Bengals need both Broncos and Dolphins. One of those will be the number 7 seed. One of those teams will be the team that comes to Buffalo next week. Now, Sean, I've asked this question a couple times, different people. Some of them are saying, I don't really care which team comes to Buffalo. I don't really care. But I think you do. If you think about it, of those 3 teams, what is the team you don't want to see that you think matches up the best against Buffalo?
Well, I'll be like everyone else and say I don't care because a 7 seed shouldn't be the 2 seed. So it doesn't matter who the 7 seed is, but if you dissect the teams, obviously the Bengals have a better quarterback. Tua's not going to be playing. Bo Nix is a rookie. Look at the weapons. Tyreek Hill is great. Jalen Waddle's been injured. Jonathan Smith has been pretty good. They got a good run game. Then you look at the Bengals, they got the best receiving core in the league, or one of them at least. Got definitely the best receiver, and they got a decent running back. And then the Broncos are just probably the overall best team because they got really good defense and pretty decent offense. Bengals got crap defense and really good offense. And the Dolphins are a really good defense. What are you going to get with the offense? You don't know. So I guess if you're looking at it like that, probably the team that can score more is the Bengals. But again, if you're a 13-win team and you lose to a 7 seed, that's not how it's supposed to go. It might happen to anyone. It could happen to anybody, but you're a better team than them. That's why you're where you're at, and that's why they're where they're at. So, but I think the Bengals would be the better offense, but the better overall team total, I think, would be the Broncos.
Yeah,
but agree. With Burrow and Chase, they could score at will, and nobody really could stop Chase, as a corner, except for the guy in the Broncos who does pretty well against them, Surtain.
Yeah, I agree. I think the Bengals for me would be that team. Again, like you said, you got to beat the best to be the best. But it'd be pretty cool if Buffalo, I think Jake said this on our last show, if Josh Allen, the Bills could beat Burrow, Lamar, and then Mahomes, and then whoever makes it to the Super Bowl. Can you imagine? Unbelievable.
Yeah, that'd be nice. And, people would still probably find something to say about how it's not as good or it doesn't mean anything because he only won 1 Super Bowl or whatever. But that's why I would like to play Burrow, because a lot of people, the only person I've ever seen get criticized for playoff wins is Josh Allen, because they like to say, look at the quarterbacks he played. They don't say, oh, look at all the defenses that they had played against in the playoffs. We're all top 5 in that year, and he beat them. you don't play, the quarterback doesn't play defense. So I don't care if the Dolphins had Skylar Thompson. I don't care if the Steelers had, Mason Rudolph. I don't care if the Patriots had Mac Jones, because they had a top defense in the league, and we put up 40 points on the Patriots that game. So if you beat Burrow, you beat Lamar, even though he's got 2 playoff wins, and then you beat Mahomes and you beat whoever in the Super Bowl, then what are people still probably find something, but what are they going to say at that point? You beat the people who are 3 of the best 4 quarterbacks in the league. So,
Well, at this time, it looks like that's not even going to be a concern right now. Denver's off to a 14-0 lead with 4 minutes and 53 seconds to go in the first.
so it
And
looks like we're going to be playing Denver.
it looks like we're going to be playing Denver. And Denver, I mean, is like you said, they're probably the most complete team. They have a pretty darn good defense, good offense. And the Jets are trailing Miami 3-0 with 7:56 to go in the first. So if either one of those teams win, the Bengal discussion is donezo. And as of this time right now, which was the expectation playing against, how lucky is it that Denver, KC wrapped up this first seed and is able to rest? I mean, how lucky are them? Are they?
Yeah.
Because they're not resting. They're not favored to win this game, and they're probably not going to win this game.
Yeah, it was nice for them because, I mean, they kind of let it slip against the Bengals. They had multiple chances, even in overtime. The Bengals got the ball first. They stopped them, and then they failed to get a field goal. The Broncos did a couple times. So being able to be like, oh, hey, we don't have to worry about playing Mahomes and the starters. You should win this game. And again, if you don't, they didn't deserve to be in the playoffs to begin with. But regardless, I mean, the Broncos had such a good turnaround from the last couple of years. And, if Bo Nix is the real deal, then they'll be good for a while. Their offensive line is finally fixed. They got a good defense. Cortland Sutton's a beast. So they're looking pretty good. And again, as good as they are overall, they're in a tough division. Obviously, they got to play the Chiefs and the Chargers, but we should win. I don't care what the score is in the playoffs. I don't care if it's 3-2. I don't care if it's 6-3. Just win the playoff games. And again, it'll be a tough battle. But what we got looking forward to us is all of our main weapons rested, except for like Keon and Cook for a little bit. But they got to play all their starters and go all out. So they might not get hurt, but they might get banged and bruised. They might feel, oh man, that's 18 weeks of football. Man, I feel tired going into the playoffs in the Buffalo when their offensive line just got a whole week off. Their D-line got a week off, and now they're going to be ready to go. So we should be looking good. And, McDermott's undefeated after a bye. I guess this is technically a bye, so it should be good for us. We'll see. It. And then you could get lucky. Not that I don't want to play the Ravens, because I do, because I just want everyone to be quiet about it. But if the Chargers win, they got to play the Bengals. I mean, the Ravens got to play Pittsburgh. And although they beat Pittsburgh last time, usually Pittsburgh has their way with Baltimore. Although Pittsburgh lost 4 in a row and they look really bad right now, it's still that division rival game in the playoffs. You never know what might happen. And then if Pittsburgh wins by a miracle, then they play Kansas City, and then we would play the Chargers or the Texans. So, and then the Chargers are a warm weather team coming to Buffalo, and then the Texans, if they won, they'd be coming to Buffalo and they're a dome team. So either way, I don't care, because I think we can do something special. And I want the hardest route, because then nobody can say nothing.
Yeah. Bill's Bunker, Jake, good to see you joining us out there. The other Jake, take that L, New England. Yeah, take that L. Just want to show you Bo Nix. I hopefully, like you were talking about, hopefully KC keeps it a little close so they're not able to rest their players in the second half, because Bo Nix comes out of the gate 8 of 8 for 125 yards and 2 touchdowns. Perfect rating right now in that first quarter. So watch out. Yeah.
Waste all of it now, and then
right.
lose that magic next week. Denver's a cold place. It gets bad weather, so I don't think the weather's really gonna.
It won't be
an effect for them. But still, coming to Buffalo, you're a rookie. Sean Payton's obviously a great coach, but I want to say I don't think anybody on this Broncos team's ever been in the playoffs. I think the majority of them are pretty new, and I can't remember if any of these, because I think the last time they made it was like 2016. So I don't think anybody was even on. Maybe the left tackle was on this team when last time they made the playoffs. So, oh no, the right tackle McClinchy, they got him from San Francisco, so he's played in the playoffs before. But so you're going to Buffalo, a lot of inexperienced people, especially your quarterback. I think we can have a good matchup.
Yeah, they definitely have some nice weapons. I mean, they have Cortland Sutton. They have the guy that we wanted to draft in the first round, wide receiver, Troy Franklin. There was a lot of talk about the Bills moving up to get him. I think he's had a really good year if I was to look up his stats. I think you were mentioning his stats. Did he get over 1,000 this year?
No, we were talking about Brian Thomas.
Oh, Brian Thomas.
I think
Okay.
that's who you're talking about
Yeah, 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 yeah,
that
yeah.
we
Okay.
wanted.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, Thomas was pretty good. I think Franklin was all right, but Sutton's the guy there, so obviously he gets the lion's share. But yeah, that's
Yeah, yeah, you're right.
it's gonna be a great matchup. Really good Super Bowl winning head coach, pretty solid defense. They got a great D line, so it's strength versus strength. Obviously, hopefully Cooper can take away Pat Surtain, and then everyone else can do a good job, and we could win the football game and play well.
Yeah. All right, Sean. Well, I wanted it to be kind of short. Just get in there,
Sure.
get the. Well, it would have been nice with a win, but I didn't really expect to win.
Yeah.
And again, the positive on this: New England does not have the first round overall pick next year, and now we can go and watch these fun games in the afternoon because they're meaningful, and especially that 5:25 game for us, or the 8:25 on the East Coast. Detroit um, going against Minnesota for the top
Mhm.
seed. That's going to be fun to watch. John, I want to thank you for joining us. We'll be talking next week, even before the game, doing some pregame shows and talking about who that opponent's going to be, which right now looks like it's going to be Denver. Final thoughts from you, my friend.
I'm just excited for the playoffs, and we have a chance to do something special. So hopefully the guys understand that, and they don't let something funky happen and it slip away. Whether it's losing now or any time throughout the playoffs, they really proved everybody, including us, that they could do something great and play well and rise above criticism and oh, this guy stinks, this guy's that. Whether they do or not, we were able to rise above and get another 13-win season. Won two more games than we did last year, and again, if we played this game with our starters, we would have won that one too. So you can even say we improved 3 games. But at the end of the day, really happy with. I can't believe the season's over. Regular season's over to start with. That's crazy how fast that went. But it's sad to think you got 4 games max left and one minimum. So hopefully we get that 4 games and we can talk football till middle of February, and then I'll be in Buffalo partying with everybody else for the Super Bowl.
Yeah. It's crazy how quick that season went. I mean, I remember we couldn't wait for it to get here. Couldn't wait for it. And once the season gets here, it just flies, especially when your team's having a really good year. I'm sure it doesn't feel good for all teams that are struggling, for fans that have teams that are struggling, but your team's winning. It's just, you're pretty much just celebrating most of the year. It would have been nice to see the Bills set that 14 win mark for a 17 game season. That would have been the most wins ever by a Buffalo Bill team, and that would have been pretty cool. But like you said, yeah, it's crazy going into next week. It all starts. So getting excited. Thank you everyone in the chat for joining us today. We'll let you get back to your games, and let's go Buffalo.
Go
Sean,
Bills. Let's
go
do it.
Bills.
Go Bills.